It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank Studios in New York. Woo! I'm surprised they don't even ask me to do a tagline. Capital One, blankety blank, blank, blank. I don't know what their tagline is. Oh, yeah, what's in your wallet? Is it still their slogan? Capital One Bank, what's in your wallet? There, I did it. Okay. Welcome. Great to talk to you. Happy October and fall and hopefully all that fun stuff. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I was asked to do a little research for a segment I was doing last week on TV about financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement. You know about this? I kind of like it. Some personal finance people have come down hard on it. I think it's cool. FIRE, financial independence, retire early. It started with millennials who basically said, I do not want to have a soul-sucking job that does not reflect my values. And I don't want to be a cheerleader for an economy that's fueled by consumerism. Now, of course, once you do that, if you're a millennial, then you start to say you basically are inviting these comments like, oh, you know, your generation doesn't have a work ethic. I think that I like this idea. Why not? I mean, I may not say that most people are going to be able to actually retire early, but by saving money and living a lifestyle where, you know, you essentially don't spend more than you earn and you avoid excessive debt and you cultivate some side hustles and you invest in low cost index funds and you don't withdraw too much money for your retirement. I like it. I'm on board. Mark, let's try to get Mr. Money Mustache on the show. He won't? He doesn't do that? He has his own? Okay. Anyway, MrMoneyMustache.com. That's one of the guys who's really started to be the big proponent of FIRE. Anyway, I think it's cool. Financial independence to me, it doesn't necessarily mean the end of working, but it does create a lot more potentially satisfying career options. So you can check it out. FIRE. Google it. And check out MrMoneyMustache.com. I want to be a proponent of his. I'm going to be a cheerleader. What the heck? All right. We start the program with a call usually, and today is no different. We are on the line with Tim, who is calling from New York. Hello, Tim. Welcome to the program. What can we do for you?
Good morning, Jill. A pleasure to be talking to you.
Great to talk to you as well. What's up?
I retired this past April, which was a little earlier than intended, but my company had offered a very good incentive plan, so I decided to take them up on it. I normally would have been retiring in 2020, but this, like I said, was too good of a deal to pass up.
Okay. And how old are you, Tim?
I'm going to be 64 next month.
Okay, great.
Okay,
congratulations.
So normally it would have been 2020, my retirement.
Okay.
I've done a fairly good job of saving for my retirement, but now that I'm retired, I want to make sure that I'm accessing it smartly.
Okay.
What funds do I spend first, or does it really matter?
Well, yeah, actually it does. So let's start with, are you married or single?
Single.
And do you own your own home?
No, I rent.
Okay. And what are your expenses generally, in terms of rent and food and fun? Let's do a little bit of fun, too. So what do you need on a monthly basis?
Well, the rent is $1,800 a month. I have some small credit card debt, which I usually pay off each month. Visa of about $3,000, and currently my other Visa is $700. Mm-hmm. Food is about maybe, let's say, $200 a month. Okay. That includes going out to eat occasionally.
Well, you're a frugal man, $200 a month.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Trying to think.
Utilities, a few $100.
Utilities, yeah, the utilities. It's an apartment. It's a small one, and like I said, I'm alone, so it's only about $50-$60 a month for the electricity.
So maybe like $6,000 a month is kind of what you need total?
Probably
Probably ish.
I would probably say less, actually. I'm probably running more about 4 or 5, I would say.
All right, I'm going to say 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, now including the credit cards. Yeah.
Okay, so 5. Great.
Yeah.
And what is the source of your income? Did you take Social Security yet or not?
No, I haven't. That's something I'm debating on maybe next month after I turn 64. But right now I'm collecting a pension of about $1,700 a month, and I'm dipping into my retirement at about $1,800 a month from one of my IRAs that I have.
And so right now, no big change on the horizon in terms of your expenses, right?
No, maybe next year a car.
Okay.
My car is getting a little old, so that might be it. But other than that, no.
Okay, so let's talk about your liquid assets, meaning like checking, savings, CDs. What do you got there?
I have a checking account, about $5,000, a savings account of $5,000. I have a high-yield savings account of $72,000, and 4 CDs worth $145,000.
Maturities kind of from now until a few years, or longer dated maturities?
They're yearly CDs,
Okay,
so
great.
the 4 of them,
Got it.
mature 4
Okay.
times a year. Basically.
And now tell me about your retirement account. You mentioned an IRA. How much is in that IRA?
Well, I have 2 rollover IRAs from my company. I had gotten laid off at one point during the 2008 period, so they rehired me, and that started a new 401k. So I have 2 rollover IRAs, which are worth about $700,000.
Okay. And are you managing those yourself, or are they are you working with an advisor?
I'm doing them myself. They have a plan like where you it was retirement IRA 2020.
Okay.
When you were going to retire and so forth. So
Very good.
I pretty much leave it alone.
Okay, good. And any other assets in terms of retirement assets, an annuity, a Roth, or some other account that's kind of stuck aside just for retirement?
Yeah, I have 4 IRAs because I thought you had to take a new one out each year, which I later found out was not necessary. But I have 4 IRAs which account for, about $29,000. And then I have company stock, which worth $11,000. I have a Treasury Direct account, which I just opened this year out of curiosity for $10,000.
Okay.
And that's about it.
And those IRAs are traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs, the 29,000? Oh, those are Roth. Okay, great. All right, now you ready for this? We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about which accounts make most sense for you to tap as you are now navigating this next wonderful part of your life. It's very exciting. We'll return with Tim in just a minute. You are listening to Jill on Money, and we are going to take the mystery out of Tim's financial life and maybe yours, but only if you let us know what's going on. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You are back with Jill on Money. And before we went to the break, we were talking to Tim from New York. And Tim's got a really great situation, actually. He retired in the spring. He took a package from his employer. I'm going to do a bet with him that I'm going to guess who his employer is, but maybe I don't want to out him on the air, but I'm going to make a guess anyway. So this is actually a really good situation, Tim, because as you mentioned, in your checking savings, kind of like just your emergency, you've got 10 grand. You've got a high yield savings with 72,000, CDs with 145,000. So that's all like good chunk of liquidity. You need about $5,000 a month. You have a pension that's giving you $1,700 a month. and you're pulling $1,800 a month from your IRA, from the rollover IRA or the Roth IRA?
One of the rollover IRAs. That's the one with I decided to take it from the biggest chunk.
Okay.
And that was my one of my IRAs was over $600,000.
Okay. And for now, I mean, it doesn't actually. I mean, you're not pulling out that much money. You say you need $5,000 a month, but your pension's $1,700, and your IRA, you said you're pulling $1,800. That's not adding up to $5,000. So, is there something I'm missing here?
No, I'm probably just taking the rest from savings.
Okay, that's fine.
Periodically during the month.
All right,
Yeah.
makes sense. So I've got two ways to think about this. One is that normally when I have this conversation with people, I say, you got all the money saved, just pull it out of your high yield and your CDs, don't worry about it, and live your life, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm also recognizing that for right now, I'm wondering whether taking that money out of one of the rollovers is actually a pretty good deal because you're in a fairly low tax bracket right now.
Right.
And
right.
so, you have 20 grand of income already, right? So because, the pension,
Mm-hmm.
you could potentially take out, up to, say, 38,000. If you took out another and I think you're going to get there. Basically, if you keep your income under $38,700, let's just, we'll call it 39. Okay. If you did that, you would stay in the 12% tax bracket, which is really low. And I'm sure when you were saving money that you never would have guessed that you would have a tax bracket that is that low.
No.
So,
it's more, usually higher.
Yeah, right? And so I guess there's a couple of things to think about. One is that, if you took out $2,000 a month from the IRA, it would be fine. It would, you pay a little bit at the 22%. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But I think that it probably does make sense to use that money and let it be taxed at that lower rate because 12%, man, like, it may go up in 10 years. Right. It may not be there for you. So I actually think this is a good idea for you. Okay. And you can use the rollover IRA. If possible, since you have money there, I might delay my Social Security until my full retirement age.
Yeah, that was my other quandary that I've been debating on because you're right. Monetarily, I really don't need it. I have plenty of savings
yes.
to handle it. So I've been on the fence about it.
What's your full retirement age?
66.
66. So you would have 2 more years where you'd pull money out. I don't know. I mean, you've got the money. I would do it. And maybe that way you wouldn't take this permanent haircut to your Social Security. Do you have any plans to work in the future? Because you are young and you sound like you're kind of rocking and rolling here, or not?
Well, I do volleyball officiating part-time. I don't plan on really working full-time, but that's sort of a hobby of mine.
Really?
So I can pull in some money doing that.
All right. Well, that's good. Okay. So, I mean, maybe a little bit there and a little bit from the account, and, you keep your tax liability pretty low, and, you're in a high-tax state, New York, but you are – I think that this makes a lot of sense to me. You ready? Should I guess on the air? Mark can edit it out if you want me to. But
sure, no, that's quite all right.
Did you work for Verizon?
No.
Oh, darn it. I just had another call that was very similar to this, and it was a Verizon person.
Yeah, no, I worked for Anthem Healthcare.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. So Anthem Healthcare offered packages. These packages are very hard, but to actually analyze because there's the – you were probably making a good chunk of money before you retired. And so giving up that income is hard. How did they sweeten the deal for you?
Well, they gave a much longer severance package than normal, which was, and I was very close. My 2 children have graduated from college, and I was planning on retiring after they graduated anyway. So the timing was almost mystical.
Well, that's so great.
Know what? I think I'm going to take them up on it.
Well,
so,
I think that is wonderful, and I think that you're in great shape. So you've got some company stock that you're just.
Yes.
Is that does it have a low cost basis or?
When I originally purchased it, it was severely discounted.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when I got laid off the first time and only time, when I was rehired, I did not pick up on the stock plan. So it's $11,000, which was purchased in the, I would say, pre-2008 time period. So it's worth, it's worth $11,000, which isn't bad. But unfortunately, I didn't continue the plan.
Seems like you did pretty well.
Yeah.
You know.
Considering what I paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in a pretty low capital gains rate, time frame. So if you wanted to do that, that's fine. Are you any charitable inclination that you might have? That could be a good thing to actually use to gift. You can gift shares in that stock. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might say like, hey, gosh, I always give, I'm going to make it up. I give $1,000 to Breast Cancer Research Foundation. You can gift the money from that company's stock, and then it goes directly to it goes straight to the charity. They know how whatever charitable institution you deal with, they always have somebody who can receive it.
Right.
Then what happens is you get the deduction for the $1,000. You say, I gave $1,000 to charity ABC, right? And then there's no tax liability for it.
Oh, okay.
So that's a nice way to use those funds that have an embedded gain in them and not have to pay capital gains. You can use it for charity.
That's a good idea because I do give to charities, and that would be a good way to handle those stocks. Definitely.
Excellent. All right. I wish you all the best, and good luck with the volleyball refereeing. I'm sure that the parents can be a little annoying, but hey,
The coach is usually a little more.
Oh,
but,
really? Okay, that's good to know. Thanks so much for calling, and good luck to you.
Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. By the way, I was a referee in basketball, Mark. I was a good referee, and I only threw one parent out of a gym, just one, for yelling not just yelling encouragement, like go, whatever, go Cindy or whatever, but he was badgering, and then he was badgering me, and then he was badgering her, and I asked him to leave the gym. Okay, that was kind of fun. If you've got a financial question, we are here to help you out, and that's our job, which is so great. And you can hear from that conversation with Tim that every one of the conversations that we have is nuanced because you're all different. It's one of the reasons why it's very hard to give, sort of across the board advice. I tend not to do that. It's really important for you, if you're going to come on the air with us, just to give us all the stuff that's going on. And some of it is not even financial. Some of it is emotional. And that is where we specialize, because we try to understand the intersection of the financial journey and the emotions that are associated with that. Because it's important. This is not some, earthy, crunchy, unga bunga show. It's just recognizing that this stuff can be thorny. And we want to help you out. So if you have a financial question, please give us a holler. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And when we return, more of your questions. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. askjill@jillonmoney.com. And yes, of course, we would love to have you on the show live with us, meaning we would love to have you be in person so I can hear your voice. But I happily will answer your emails. It's just that we are consistently digging out from under our email list. I'm going back in time. But so if we don't get to you quickly, give us a break. Come on, we're doing our best. Just me and Mark here at Jill on Money. That's it. Two of us. Okay, Mike writes, he's 54 years old. His wife is 56. He wants to retire in the next couple of years if possible. Our home is paid for. We've got no other debt. I'm estimating we need about 125 to 150 grand a year to live the lifestyle we want to live. I make 125, my wife makes 20, and I contribute 18% into my 401k. What do you mean? Then how could you need 100? You mean you need more money than what you're living on now? That's a little nutty. Okay, let's go with it. He gives me the breakdown of his assets, money in retirement plans. Let's call it about 950 grand in tax deferred, and then some money in Roths and taxable accounts. 1.9 million bucks. It's about a 60-40 mix. Okay, so question, what types of accounts should my money be in once I retire and start to draw on the money? Well, I mean, you could leave it as is. He's got most of his money in Vanguard. That seems fine to me. The retirement accounts you can roll over since you like Vanguard. Well, okay, I'll take Vanguard. That's fine. Good, low-cost funds. That seems to be reasonable to me. So that's good. Okay, most of my 900 grand with my old employer. Should I move it to Vanguard? Yes. No fees at all. It's literally just a direct rollover from a 401k straight to a rollover IRA. He says, I would love to move it into a Roth IRA if possible. Well, if you do, you're going to pay tax on $900,000. So I'm betting you probably don't want to do that. How long do you think I need to be working to have an income of $125,000 to $150,000? Well, you didn't give me your Social Security estimate, but let's presume that right now you've got this 1.9 million. Let's say he says, I want to retire in another couple of years. Let's say by the time you retire, I don't know, you have 2 million? Let's just round it up. Let's say 2 million bucks. Because some of the money you have to keep in cash, so it's not going to be invested. So here's a good rule of thumb. The 2 million bucks probably going to generate something around 70 grand. Some of that money is taxable, though, right? Because some of it is in a taxable account. So if you add in Social Security, maybe it's another 25 grand, maybe it's 30 together. You got 100,000. You're short, right? You need 125 to 150. So I think you've got a couple of problems. Number one is I think that you're estimating that you need. I think that your aspiration of wanting to spend 125 to 150, if that's a net number, then you're going to be working a lot longer than the next couple of years. If, however, you want to retire when you are before under the age of claiming Social Security, which it seems like you are, then you're really going to have to reduce your expectations. Bottom line here, Mike, is I think there's a disconnect. I think that based on the numbers you give me, I'm guessing you probably need to work till your full retirement age for Social Security. 65, 6, 7, it's probably 66. And that's 10 years. And in 10 years, then you'll have built up that nest egg even more. You will have not dipped into it, and then you'll be able to pull out the money you need. But if you really want that much money, there's no way you're going to do this in the next couple of years. So no, it's not possible. But I think you got options. What I would do is start crunching some numbers. That's the number one thing to take control of this. Angela says she's 52 years old. She's single. She's working hard to save over 70% of her income. Oh, my God. Anyway, she wants to retire at age 62. Over the past 5 years, she really kicked up her savings. She's got about 500 grand. She currently has a 70-30 mix on her asset allocation. 70 riskier stuff, 30 not so risky. Returns of just under 5%. It's less than my ideal for 6.5% goal. I asked about increasing my investment to an 80-20 model, and they discouraged. I presume she means her investment professionals. What I know about my early years of investments was the most logical investment for performance were dividend-paying stocks. I now have some, but not all. Can I make my next round of investments strictly in dividend-paying investments on my own without an agent? Would this be a mistake? I have 50 grand to shift into investments. Should I move or give direction to my FA. It sounds like you don't like your financial advisor. First of all, I would not actually say at 52 years old you need to go to 80-20. I think that the reality is that you don't get a ton more upside, but you do start to freak yourself out when things go down. If you don't have confidence in your financial advisor, then move everything out and save yourself some money. And also, frankly, maybe you should kind of pull back your expectations. Here are 2 questions here about people who want to retire early. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot explain to you how much better it is to keep working. The math just works so much better. And so as a result, I really want to encourage you before you start saying, I want to retire this young, whatever, that it is important to try to run the numbers. And don't take risk to make it up. That's not going to be the best thing you can do is save. The second best thing you can do is work longer. The third best thing you can do is invest and not be a knucklehead and lose money on the downside. How about that? There's a nice little video for you, Mark. An audio clip. You like that? Sometimes I have little pearls of wisdom. Stop retiring so early. Everybody. Please. You're making it harder on yourself. Okay. You're listening to Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Have you checked out our podcast? It's called Better Off. You can subscribe. Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. In the meantime, go to JillOnMoney.com and you can read, listen, watch, and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. It's so easy. All you have to do is send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And don't forget to visit our website, JillOnMoney.com. Check out the resource section because we always are updating it. So Mark and I were reading this article recently. We're like, wow, that's such a great resource. And we just popped it right onto the resource. So always go in there, refresh it, see what's there, bookmark it, always adding new stuff. Dan writes that his wife inherited a taxable brokerage account from her grandfather with approximately $60,000. About half is invested in mutual funds with expense ratios in excess of 1%. Boo! Anyway, so Dan wants to sell them and put them into lower cost index funds. Yay! Dan says, I also want to contribute them to a 529 plan since we're expecting our first child in January, and then sell them within that account and buy new securities. But I found that only cash contributions are allowed for 529 plans. Is there any other way to sell securities without triggering a taxable event, assuming I have no losses to offset against and IRA contributions are maxed out for me and my wife? But wait a minute. If your wife inherited a taxable brokerage account, didn't she get a step up in cost basis? Unless how much maybe she inherited a while back. I don't know. But anyway, if you're going to sell the funds, just sell them, bite the bullet and pay the tax. Yes, you can only contribute cash, but if the taxable brokerage account, she inherited it, she should get a step up in cost basis, date of death valuation, and then pay the tax. Move on. Very easy. Okay, let's try to do this. Here's another inheritance question. I'm 57. I've got $330,000 in my 401k, and I will have a pension of $532 a month. I have $11,000 in a Roth. My wife is 56. She's going to retire from a teaching job in 2 years, and she will be due a $2,500 a month pension. We owe $122,000 on our house, and I should be receiving $220,000 in inheritance. Should I pay off the house and other debt of about $20,000 or invest the $200,000? I don't know what your actual rate is on that mortgage, and I'm not sure where you live. Both of those will play into this because the deductibility of mortgage interest is now limited to $10,000 a year. And if you live in a high property tax state, you might have property taxes that will be due that. But I guess the other part of this is that I wouldn't plunk down a $220,000 inheritance and just pay off a house because you may not need to. And you're still going to be in a decent tax bracket because you're both getting pensions. You're going to have $3,000 a month, and you'll also have a Social Security check. So I think that what you may want to do is definitely pay off the other debt of $20,000, and then make sure you've got plenty of money in your emergency reserve. And then let's get some more details about whether it makes sense for you to pay down a mortgage. It really depends on that rate. Maybe a portion of it. I'm going to guess no. Tom is 61. He plans to retire at 65, partially due to the physically dangerous aspect of my job. What do you think he is? Firefighter? Anyway, Tom has a 403B and a Roth, and I'm wondering about converting the 403B to a Roth when I retire. My accountant tells me with a 403B, if I need to take a large amount out in a particular year, let's say $25,000 for a new car, that my Social Security for that year would get penalized. Does it make more sense to pay the rollover taxes to make a Roth and have the freedom to use it in the future? Also, my full retirement age is 66 and a half. If I retire at 65, would it help to wait 18 months until I'm 66 and a half to collect my Social Security? Should I just take it at 65? I have enough money in my Roth to live on it for 18 months. Well, let me start with your second question. Yes, delaying makes sense. So if you can afford it, yes. And yes, if you start converting that 403B over, let's say, a period of time, not so much that you pop yourself into a different tax bracket, but if you've got the money outside of the 403B to pay the tax that's due, and you start to convert it slowly but surely, then I think it does start to make sense. Many of the experts I talk to about taxation really believe that it is incredibly important for people to try to max out, let's call it your fully taxed options, meaning the Roth. Because right now, tax rates are relatively at historic lows. So what you're really thinking about is, hey, should I pay the tax today while rates are really low, or do I roll the dice in the future? And not only would the money you take out of that 403B count against you for Social Security purposes, but it's taxable and tax rates could rise. So I think it's a great idea to try to convert it. But again, you got to convert a little bit at a time. Don't pop yourself into a new tax bracket, and be sure you have the money to pay the tax due, right? You got to have that money in an account that's already been taxed. So you got to have the money that's available. So I hope that helps. Now, if you're listening and you liked all those questions and you're fascinated and you say, well, how does this impact me? Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That is our email address. And during the break, here's what I want you to do. Go to the website, JillOnMoney.com. I already told you to bookmark the tab, resources. But if you just go to JillOnMoney.com before you even bookmark that tab, sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Free weekly newsletter. Did I say that again? It's free. It's great. All right. When we return, more of your questions. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com is the email address. JillOnMoney.com is the website address. And we will be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, something going on in your life, hey, we'd love to hear from you. Go to JillOnMoney.com. Click the top right corner. It says contact, and you can contact us. Hey, Mark, do you think that we should change the cover of the Jill on Money website and have the book on it? Maybe we'll have to do something like me holding the book, or I got to pimp this book out, man. We got to make that happen. We'll ask for that for sure. Okay. So anyway, while you're there, check it out. You can click and pre-order my book. Isn't that fun? Love that. Watch the stuff that we put on video. Read the stuff that we write. Listen to old shows. It's all there. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about, I'm very historical. I look back quite a bit. So it's an interesting email that we got from Michelle about her credit score. She goes, I used to have excellent credit. I paid off my car, my mortgage, and I checked my credit report. Now I have fair and good credit. Why did this happen? I don't know. It's funny. And so why I was thinking about that is that I recently wrote a post last month about the year anniversary after the Equifax data breach. And I think that I think a lot of people are absolutely trying to manage the process of like just dealing with identity theft and this stuff. But I really think it's important that people just go to annualcreditreport.com and check it out, because I'm not sure why paying off a car or a mortgage, which are both considered installment loans, would impact your credit negatively. So maybe something's going on that's not great. Anyway, Mark, let's put identity theft prevention 1 year after Equifax or Equifax. I don't know how you pronounce it, really. I think it's both ways. I think Equifax. And I think we have to update this, because I think when I wrote it, I said you might have to pay for a credit freeze. I don't think you have to pay for a credit freeze anymore. So we should update that. Mark, we should update that. You're listening to Jill on Money. See how I sort of slipped that in? Mark, you should update that. If you want to stick around, we would be delighted, because we've got an interview next and it's a lot more fun. So just hang out with us during the break. Why don't you go to JillOnMoney.com and you can subscribe to our podcast so you can get it right there. Go there. All right, we'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money. I am Jill Schlesinger, and we are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank Studios, where we are just delighted to be chatting with you. Fall, theoretically. Last week did not feel like fall in New York, but we're looking forward to it. If you're a baseball fan, you're looking forward to more and more baseball fun. If you're a hockey fan, the season has started. We have a big period of time coming up where there are going to be tons of questions about benefits. Medicare open enrollment starts next week. We've got your employee benefits, all sorts of choices. Affordable Care Act choices. Everything is coming together right now in the next month or so. If you've got a question about those benefits, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you've got a question about insurance, I've got a great guest for you. Jennifer Fitzgerald is the CEO and co-founder of Policygenius. It's a really easy way to buy life, disability, renters, pet insurance, auto insurance, health insurance, homeowners insurance, all of it. So here is our interview with Jennifer Fitzgerald. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You have this very cool website that is in the insurance business. How did you come to this place?
Yeah, not everybody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to start a company in the insurance industry.
Yeah, I can't wait. This sounds awesome. I'm either going to do I'm going to create Tinder or Policygenius.
I know, it was a coin toss. Before starting the company, I worked in financial services and I did a lot of consulting work for the big insurance companies at McKinsey. And, the light bulb moment for me and my co-founder, who was also at McKinsey with me, was getting hired to do the same project again and again with these insurance companies. So they kept asking us, how do we engage younger consumers? What do we do about the fact that our insurance agent sales force is aging? The average age of an insurance agent in the U.S. is 59 years old. And most people, certainly most people under the age of 45, have never had an agent, aren't interested in an insurance agent, but they still have a need for life insurance and disability insurance and the products that these agents sell. So, the fact that the main distribution channel is still the brick and mortar agent was just, pretty indicative of a larger issue that we felt like we could solve.
And when you say, the light bulb moment. How do we engage younger consumers? Is it hard to talk to an established industry like insurance and basically smack them around and say, well, here's what you're doing wrong? I mean, in other words, I know people who've worked as consultants to a lot of these places, and they present these gorgeous recommendations never to be implemented. So what is the problem? Are they scared that they're going to cannibalize their own business, and that's the reluctance there?
I think that's part of it. So some of the insurance companies that have big captive agent forces, right, are certainly concerned about channel conflict and not wanting to upset their agents by going direct to the consumer. So that's one concern. I think the second barrier to change is, a lot of these insurance companies are public companies, right, and they're held to quarterly earnings. And there's not a big built-in incentive to take a big risk and make, a new strategic direction. You just basically want to keep, returning good earnings to your shareholders and not want to rock the boat too much. One interesting way that I heard it described was that most insurance company CEOs are like 16 quarters away from retirement. So, it's not their problem to solve.
That's so depressing. But good news for you because you started this company. So you started it when?
In 2014.
So tell a little bit about the origin story of the company itself. Your partner, co-founder, also a McKinseyite.
Yep.
Tell us about that person.
So his name is Francois Delam. He was.
Oh, you just wanted a French guy. You just got to throw the French.
South African.
Okay, so he's South African with a French name.
Yes.
And is he French by lineage?
No, his father is Belgian, which is where the French surname and first name.
Okay, so you and Francois, you're buddies at McKinsey?
So we were on the same teams.
And what happened? How did this start?
So we started, actually it was more of his brainchild. He worked at a couple startups when he was in business school and really had that entrepreneurial bug. I didn't. I was pretty happy at McKinsey. I was probably, a year or so off from making partner, and life was pretty good as far as consulting went. We were getting hired to think through the Affordable Care Act strategy for these insurance companies. So this was around 2011, 2012. When the Affordable Care Act had just been passed, but it hadn't been implemented yet, right? And so nobody knew what these exchanges were going to look like, what products were going to be on there. And so McKinsey had built a practice. So they had built an exchange simulation with real consumers, multiple products. And so we were helping big insurance companies figure out how consumers were going to engage on these quote-unquote exchanges with them before anybody knew what they would look like, right? He said, well, if a government-run marketplace is causing this much turmoil in the industry, why isn't there a private marketplace that does something? So that kind of got us working on nights and weekends, kicking around ideas, doing research, seeing what existed out there. And that was the initial origin story of Policygenius.
Tell me how it actually launches. Does it launch as mostly health insurance? Is that your focus to begin with? Or is it, now you have everything there, but what was the start?
So the start, interestingly enough, when we launched in 2014 was 4 products: life insurance, long-term disability insurance, pet insurance, and renter's insurance. So we didn't start with health insurance. There was still too much uncertainty. It was the first open enrollment season under the Affordable Care Act. So we were like, you know what, let's let the dust settle before we tackle health insurance. So we had those 4 products. We wanted a mix of products that were kind of bigger ticket, more complicated, like life and disability, and then smaller products that you could, just buy with a credit card, like renters and pet. Because we didn't know what consumers would want and what they would engage with. Our hypothesis was that pet insurance was going to go through the roof, right?
Right.
And it was life insurance.
Wow.
It took off as our number 1 product.
Immediately. And was it term life was the first?
Term life.
So when I look at the website right now, which is policygenius.com, and I click on life insurance, there's term life, level term life, return of premium life insurance, no medical exam life insurance, and the evil whole life insurance. So let's talk about this for a second.
Yep.
Explain what return of premium life insurance is.
So return of premium life insurance is just a regular level term policy where if you outlive the term, you get the premiums refunded to you.
And so it costs a little more.
It costs more.
Do you help people understand whether or not they should have one versus the other of, let's say, the top 3? Term, level, return of premium. Is there a little way that I see the quotes, But what about the analysis?
So we have a couple different ways. We believe in the channel of choice for our consumers. So some people, particularly our consumers, very strong do-it-yourselfer, right? They want to read the content. They want to use the tools. They want to become self-informed before they talk to anybody, right?
Okay.
So we've got great content on our site, a lot of calculators, do-it-yourself tools, the ability to really dive in for those detail-oriented DIYers. And then we have, a full team on the back end of CFPs, licensed insurance agents for somebody who wants to get on a chat, get on the phone, send in a text message. So again, it's channel of choice. Some people, really love online chat. Some people want to get on the phone because this is not a purchase you make every day.
We'll get back to our discussion about insurance with CEO Jennifer Fitzgerald. Her company is called Policygenius. Hop online. You can check it out. Policygenius.com. We will be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would like to hear from you. It's so easy. Just give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you have not signed up for our free newsletter, well, it's time. With our new privacy policy, I see, Mark. I couldn't do my birth date. It only let me do my month, not my year. So I had a hard time completing that form. I'm going to try to do it now. Anyway, go to the website. The website is jillonmoney.com, and there you can actually, it's so amazing, you can just sign up for this free weekly newsletter. You can read all the stuff that we write on an ongoing basis. You can even click on the link and pre-order my book, The Smart Things Dumb People Do with Their Money. Now, let us get back to the insurance questions at hand. We are joined live with Jennifer Fitzgerald. She is the CEO and co-founder of Policygenius. And, I love the concept. So easy to buy insurance online now. In this segment, I'm going to ask Jennifer, what's the deal with Policygenius offering whole life insurance? Many of you know that we are not huge fans. So here's more of our interview with Jennifer Fitzgerald. So why whole life?
So whole life was a recent addition. And, if you read the content on our site, talk to our team, we will, be very upfront and say for most people who need life insurance, term life is the way to go, right? However, we do get onto our site and into our channels high net worth clients who do have estate planning needs. So we were just as surprised as the next person that, these folks were coming through who, had legitimate estate planning needs and wanted whole life, were financially savvy, knew the difference, knew the fees that were involved in a whole life policy. So again, we don't do a lot, but it's there, and we have a really good CFP team who knows how to, handle the affairs of these larger, higher net worth clients.
So how many people on your CFP team?
So we've got on our CFP disability advanced planning team about 6 people.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll just say that permanent insurance has a use case. It's just very small number of people.
It's very rare.
Okay, so you deal with only certain companies. And you obviously have some financial arrangement with these. So how does that work?
So we are a licensed broker in all 50 states and D.C., and that means the company gets paid a commission on the insurance policies we sell. The commission's pretty comparable across all of our companies. We don't favor one company over another, and our site actually forces that transparency because you can see what the rates are, right? So assuming you put in accurate information about your health profile, you'll see right there, and you choose which company you want to go with.
What I found interesting about that is that you have access to some policies that are normally only sold through their captive agents like a Northwestern Mutual. Has that changed in the digital age?
You see, so some are still strictly sold through captive agents. So State Farm on the auto insurance side, New York Life will still only work through their captive agents. But what we've seen is, a lot are relaxing and they have independent and captive channels, which again is just better for the consumer.
You added on auto insurance. And you added on health. So let's talk a little bit more. I mean, because those are two huge categories, which are probably the vast majority of people need. So, okay, 155-6 million people get their health insurance through their employers. How many people are buying health insurance privately through places like Policygenius?
So the last estimates I saw, it's not a lot in terms of population-wise, maybe like, 10 to 15 million that are the non-Medicaid, non-Medicare individual and family shoppers. But it's increasing, right? Fewer people are staying at jobs for a long time. You've got the rise of the gig economy, the self-employed worker, the freelancer. So it's small but growing. And for those people who leave that, W-2 job and strike off on their own for their first time, this is a very intimidating and complicating thing to tackle.
How does this work based on the exchange? How does that incorporate or not incorporate here?
That's a great question. So so sites like ours that offer private health insurance, you typically plug into the exchange. So every plan that's available on your state exchange and your zip code, we also have. Because health insurance can't be simple, off-exchange plans. So these are plans that still have to comply with the Affordable Care Act, but because they're sold, quote-unquote, off the exchange, there's a little bit more flexibility in terms of pricing and plan design. So we've got on- and off-exchange plans. There's no quote-unquote price savings by buying anywhere else. Like any insurance, it's regulated. The insurance plans and rate tables are filed with the state regulator. So, you buy a Cigna plan from us or your state exchange, it's the same price.
So
right?
It's good. So no one has to worry. If you're like, oh my God, I'm Affordable Care Act, I can still go to Policygenius, get the exact same thing. Probably more easily. I bet your interface is much nicer.
Much more easily. And that is, what we pride ourselves on is creating a really good experience for the DIY shopper. For health insurance in particular, I think the thing that's really confusing about health insurance is people think that, there's a right answer for them or this magical plan that's going to have no deductible and is going to be cheap. It's not. Health insurance is a series of trade-offs, right? There's no silver bullet answer, right? Do you want lower deductibles or do you want a higher premium, right? Do you want a big doctor network or do you want a lower premium, right? So we walk the consumers walk themselves through those, handful of decisions that they have to decide. And that narrows down the plans to choose from.
On the auto insurance side, I love that you have ride share insurance, which is brilliant, rental car insurance, which is usually the worst deal in the world when you're at the checkout counter, right?
Yeah, usually your credit card covers it.
Under your more products, I'm interested by this. Identity theft insurance. Tell me about that.
So these are plans where you pay, anywhere from $8 to upwards of $20 a month that have risk monitoring on all the credit bureaus for you, that help you, if your identity is stolen, it helps you recoup some of the cost of, fight that in court or rebuild that. So it's an increasingly a popular product, given all the breaches that are happening out there.
But it's also funny because like Homeowners is under the other. So does this mean, I think Homeowners insurance is so weird because you can go out and say, okay, I want coverage, and you can get a humongous range.
That's interesting. We actually just started piloting our auto and home insurance coverage. So we don't have a live marketplace on the site for auto and home like we do for life or health or pet. What we're piloting right now and getting great feedback on is a more concierge service. So we've got an auto and home team. Do I have the right level of coverage? Should I also have umbrella on top of my homeowner's insurance?
By the way, I'm a huge fan of the umbrella.
Yeah,
so like cheap and easy.
$200 a year and, an
$2 million of coverage
Exactly.
or something. It's fabulous.
So what we've been doing is, you fill out a form online. Our team will prepare, do the analysis for you, right? So do you have the right amount of coverage? And then the recommendations are, can we get you more coverage for the same price? or, the same coverage for a lower price, right? Which is, at the end of the day, what you want as a homeowner.
Do you, when in that concierge service, when we have rich people who call in and I'm like, you're underinsured, they'll say, well, what do I do? And so like offline, I'll be like, well, I mean, Chubb is kind of like this big standard bearer. Do you deal with the high-end guys?
We do.
And gals?
Yeah, we do. So Chubb, as you mentioned, AIG, they're typically for...
Those are the two, basically,
those are the two
right?
big ones. Travelers a little bit for the wealthier segment, but Chubb and AIG for, your big homes, expensive cars. So, we deal across the spectrum.
Okay, we've got another segment with Jennifer Fitzgerald where we are talking insurance. If you've got an insurance question or any other kind, let us know how we can help you out. Just send us an email to askjill@jillonmoney.com and hop on to our website and go and check out our sister podcast. It's called Better Off. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. I can't. One thing that is hard about being your own boss, essentially, I'm just putting this out there, is that you have to chase down money all on your own. Now, you guys all know this. Anyone who is got a side hustle or runs your own business, small business owners, it almost is better if you're doing it, but then you feel like such a nag. This is happening to me right now. I have no doubt that I will get paid. It's just a question of why do I have to be the squeaky wheel? Like, why I pay all of my bills ahead of time, not just on time. It drives me insane. But, I had this whole system going. It was great. This company was paying me. Fantastic. And then all of a sudden things stopped. And, if I found out that I didn't have my money in hand for one of my vendors, if a check that I sent to somebody, my web designer, for example, didn't go through, I'd be mortified and quickly get the payment out. So let's see, how long has it been since I first told them that they missed it? What do you think, Mark? You want to have a guess? Yeah, I think it's more like 2 months now. Okay, so thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate that you let me be a nag every now and again. And I will be. Don't worry. Don't despair. All right, let us not dwell on these negative thoughts. Let us talk to Jennifer Fitzgerald. We're going to wrap up our conversation with her. She's the CEO of Policygenius.com, and we're talking about long-term care in this segment. Here's Jennifer. You also have long-term care insurance on here, which I think is just a wild market right now.
Yeah.
The actuaries really screwed up long-term care insurance in the early days because I guess they didn't realize how much healthcare prices would rise, but also they didn't understand how long certain illnesses lasted.
Yeah. And
I think that was the other piece of it, right?
Yeah.
So they underpriced long-term care insurance. So we have this, teeny tiny, it's not huge, but a generation of people who purchase long-term care policies. And then within 10 years, maybe 15 years, they are told that the premium they thought they were going to pay is going to rise by some ridiculous 3x amount, right?
Right.
And they're freaking out. They don't know what to do. So if someone's in that situation right now, can they come to Policygenius and get your opinion about what they should do?
Yep, they can. And we work with a partner on the back end who is probably the biggest agency that deals with long-term care insurance. And to your point, Jill, a lot of companies have left the market because of the volatility in pricing, and nobody knows what long-term care costs are going to look like, right? So they got a lot of the underlying assumptions incorrect. The other thing that they underestimated was how long people were going to hold on to the policies, right? So typically when you price insurance, you factor in some lapse assumptions that not everybody's going to hold on to their policy for 10 years. You're going to see some lapse before then. And people weren't lapsing as much as they thought they would, right? So, and they were drawing on the benefits more than they expected. So because of that, you had a lot of the big companies like John Hancock, for example, exit the market.
Jennifer, when you look ahead, it seems like you've got this wonderful website. It's chock full of information. You've got lots of products. It's insurance only. Is that the hope? Is that you say, we're sticking to insurance? We could do mutual funds. We could do robos. We could do whatever we want. It's just insurance?
For the moment, yes. I can't see us ever going down the path of building our own robo-advisor or getting into mutual funds. What we are thinking about in our testing with consumers is a little bit more on the financial planning side, right? So typically when somebody comes to us for a life insurance need, they just have experienced a big life event, typically having a kid or getting married, buying a home. So they're not just thinking about life insurance in a vacuum. They are also thinking about 529 plans and wills and, a home mortgage. So I think there is a big need for really good financial planning and advice for the DIY consumer that we get. There's nothing great out there. A lot of it's around, budgeting and kind of tracking stuff. So we've all seen those software programs and those apps. They're great at giving a snapshot point in time of here's everything you spent on your credit card and here's what's in your bank account, but nothing really that's around planning and advice.
What are the plans for Policygenius? Tell us all about how you're getting rich beyond belief.
I am not personally getting rich beyond belief. No.
All right. So you put your own money. You guys, the two founders, so you put your own, you were McKinsey-ites, you had a few shekels, you start building this. Then what did you do? Tell us the origin story of the business part of it.
So we bootstrapped for, probably 6 to 12 months, raised a small friends and family round to get going. So this was $700,000. And didn't take a salary probably for the first 2 years of building the company.
Lucky you've come from such a big, wealthy family that you could draw on your trust fund. I'm kidding, everyone. She's an Army brat.
Air Force brat.
I'm sorry. Ooh, wow. Yeah. She came right back at me. A military brat is what I should have said.
Military brat. But, it saved a decent amount working at McKinsey for several years. So stretched that friends and family around for well over a year. We were incredibly frugal about what we did with the cash. Had a very small team that we launched with. Then about a year and a half after launch, we raised our first round of venture capital. Interestingly, insurance is quote unquote hot now in venture capital and tech. It was not, I assure you, 5 years ago when we first started talking to investors, but insurance is a big thing now.
Okay, so then what? You got that venture round, you got a ton of money.
We got $5 million in 2015.
Yeah.
And started building, adding new products, expanding the team.
Did you take a salary at that point, for God's sakes?
I did take a salary at that point.
So now that was 2015, which 3 years later.
Yeah.
Now what?
And so we've raised a couple rounds of funding since then, a little over $50 million in total. And, that goes to expanding the team, marketing more, subway campaigns in New York City, hiring software engineers to build the platform. So, so for us, it's, getting our name out there, getting the brand out there, building more product. And making sure that we deliver a great customer experience in an industry where often the experience isn't great.
Well, thank you so much to Jennifer Fitzgerald. She has been very kind. I'm going to be on a panel with her. I liked her so much, I asked her to be on a panel with me. For anyone listening in the New York area, we're going to do something at the 92nd Street Y with Jennifer Fitzgerald. So stay tuned. We'll make an announcement about that as we get closer. You are listening to Jill on Money, and if you've got a financial question, send us an email. It's very easy. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to jillonmoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back with Jill on Money. We would love to hear from you. All you have to do, it's very easy. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. All right, let's get through some of these emails because I know they piled up. Summertime pile up. So we're getting through them. Chris writes that his question is in regards to assets and disability. I have epilepsy and have Medicare coverage to help pay for my medication along with a small $500 check. Do you have Medicare or Medicaid? I don't know about that. I heard a short conversation on the radio about how inheriting assets or any money will discontinue my insurance coverage. I want to figure out the best way to inform my grandparents as to how to leave. They should leave what they've decided not to interact with my disability. Yeah, so I think you have SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. The best way that they can figure out how to leave you money and not actually impact your disability benefits is to see an estate attorney, a qualified estate attorney, and that attorney would likely create something that is called a special needs trust. That's what I would guess. So give that a shot. And if you need any more help, we're happy to chime in. Okay. Roberta writes that her husband will be inheriting a third of his mother's estate. She passed away recently. Part of it is in IRAs. We need to make the best financial decisions. The estate is in a trust, meaning, I guess that, well, let's see, what property is in the trust? Property, liquid assets, and the IRAs? If the IRAs are in the trust, that could be weird. I'm not sure that you should double check that. Because most often people will not put IRAs inside trusts. So if you inherit an IRA, generally speaking, you have to take your distributions during your lifetime or within 5 years after the original account holder passed away. And you could usually, I don't know if you can roll it into your own IRA. I know that spouses can. I don't believe that a child can. But what you probably should do is talk to the attorney because, you may want to be clear that if you have certain assets inside of an IRA and it's left to the trust, can the trust then distribute those assets into an inherited IRA? I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that anything money you pull out of that, you would have to pay tax on. So I'm sorry, I'm a little vague on that one, Roberta, but I need a little more information. Okay? Let's see. Here is somebody called Mendy who says, over the past 20 years, I've contributed a modest portion of my pre-tax dollars to a tax-deferred executive compensation program, which my employer sponsors. The planned fund is the Prudential Stable Value Fund. The yield is based on Treasury bonds with a floor of 3%, which is what it's paying now. Lo and behold, time flies, and after 20 years, it's built up to $600,000. It's payable in 15 installments commencing 2 years after I retire. Should I pass away before the full disbursement, my wife is the beneficiary. The kids are out of the house. They're on solid footing. Aside from the $600,000, we've got $1.4 million in retirement funds, 401ks and IRAs, and the mix is roughly 70% equity, 30% bonds. We also have $800,000 in non-retirement funds, similar mix, $200,000 in an emergency fund. House is worth $500,000. It's fully paid for. We have no debt. At full retirement age, I would get $3,000 in Social Security. My wife, $1,000. I'm 59. My wife is 57. I've been at this very solid Fortune 100 company for the past 20 years. I have no plans to retire at this point since I like my job and I'm good health and I make about $275,000 a year. My concern is that I am now paranoid about that deferred compensation fund. Did I let it get too big? I don't know if you have a choice about that. It got big. That's good. In addition, would it be lost to creditors if the company goes bankrupt? No, that's not what would happen. The money is yours, I believe. It's strong. It's an ethical company. You never know. Should I be losing sleep? Should I get out of the funds somehow? You can't get out of the funds. I don't believe that is, I don't think anything that is a plan for employees that would be subject to a bankruptcy. I think the only problem is that they may not be able to, I mean, it's basically invested. And so you'd have to look at the plan documents to get a real opinion. But I think my short answer is please don't lose sleep over this, because I don't think there's anything really you need to do. It is a Fortune 100 company, which is good. Obviously, there are Fortune 100 companies that have gone bust, but it is not invested in a crazy way. I don't think that it's something that you're going to have much control over anyway. So from that perspective, I might say, why lose sleep over something that you probably can't do anything about this? Okay? So it is a good problem to have, says Mark. But I think you're fine. All right? Boy, it's a toughie, right? How much time do I have? Can I do it fast? No. All right. I've got under 1 minute, which means the music's going to start all of a sudden, and I'm going to be yammering away. So hang on. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to go to a break. We're going to pay some bills. During the break, you should go onto our website, JillOnMoney.com, and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. When we return, more of your questions. We will be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. Before we close out the program, I just want to respond to a bunch of questions that I received about a recent Tribune column that I wrote about estate planning. And generally speaking, I can't put everything in a column that is a national column. So specifically, if you have state-specific issues, someone wrote in asking about something with New York residents, you should really talk to a New York estate attorney to find out the impact of various trusts and how they might hurt or help you. And generally speaking, I just want to put that out there as a big, huge disclaimer, right? So when I write these columns, they're for everyone. And most often they kind of cover the basics. If you need more, then you should talk to qualified estate planning attorneys directly, those that are in your own state of residence. So yes, you need a will, a durable power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, a letter of instruction, which sometimes one person wrote in and said no lawyer has mentioned that. A letter of instruction can sort of be like a catch-all that just sort of says, here's what I want to happen. Here's what I want to happen with my funeral. This is where I want I don't want to be buried. I want to be cremated. So usually that can be as part of the general estate plan. Revocable trusts, if you create them, do not avoid Medicare 5-year lookbacks. Revocable trusts do not have to file their own tax returns. They are pass-throughs. They go through your own individual tax return. An irrevocable trust has its own tax ID number, and you have to file taxes for that. And did I cover everything? I think I did, Mark. That was pretty good. And again, for most people, when we talk about estate planning, your best bet is to go talk to an estate attorney. It's not to do an estate plan based on a column, okay? You can take that column. It was just sort of a way to prepare and get people prepped for what they're likely to face, okay? Hey, that's it. That's the show. Thanks so much. If you've got a question, give us a shout. It's Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com, and head to the website all during the week. We post new content all the time, and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. It's fun. Okay, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.